What's up guys, Cash back again, and in today's video we'll be talking about the heroes who are most likely to be added to the roster for Avengers. This upcoming Tuesday we'll be getting our first hero release for the year with the mighty Jane Foster, and while it's still unofficially announced, we know more heroes are coming soon after her because of leaks from Miller, who data mines the game, as well as the developers themselves, who have confirmed they have been working on the next heroes to come after Jane Foster. We know that She-Hulk is the most likely hero coming after Jane Foster's release to tie in with her Disney Plus show that debuts this August, and thanks to Miller we know that the Winter Soldier has had the most development after She-Hulk and that he is currently being worked on alongside other things, but after those two heroes things get a bit murky, and at this point nothing is known for certain about the dev team's plans for hero content for the remainder of this year and beyond. Every hero on this list has either been found in the game files by data miners, have upcoming MCU projects that Marvel games can use for cross-promotion and brand synergy, which is something we're seeing more of lately with heroes like Ms. Marvel and Jane Foster. They tie in well with the game's current narrative, or they simply are one of the many heroes players have been demanding to see added to the team. So we'll go in order from those who have a strong chance of making the roster but could still be considered a long shot, up to the heroes who are pretty much guaranteed to be added, starting with America Chavez. America Chavez has been making the rounds the last few years, showing up in different Marvel properties, mainly comics and mobile games, but she recently made her big screen debut in the MCU in Multiverse of Madness, and now her name is really buzzing. The reason I added America to this list is because both Marvel and Crystal Dynamics have put such a huge effort into spotlighting more of the Marvel Universe's female heroes by introducing players to some newer and lesser known heroes like Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan, who have both had major leaps in popularity recently, and I think America Chavez will be another great young female hero to showcase in Avengers. She also checks off several boxes in terms of gameplay that will make her an instant favorite of players, like super strength, her ability to fly, and she can also create portals, which is something that I think would make it easier to weave her into the game's narrative if they chose to include her, because as we've seen, AIM's Tachyon technology has opened up the world of Avengers to different timelines and realities, allowing heroes like Jane Foster to be pulled into the story, and I can see America's ability to open multiversal portals adding a fun dynamic to the game's current story. The next hero that I think has a pretty good chance of being added to the roster is Wonder Man. Now if you watch my video listing the heroes who are either too powerful for the game or who simply don't fit the game's vision, you may remember Wonder Man being on the list, with my reasoning being that he's simply not that popular amongst fans and players, but that could change in the near future. It was recently announced that a Wonder Man Disney Plus series was greenlit, and it has the director of Shang-Chi leading the project, and is set to begin filming in 2023. So with any new hero for Avengers, planning is one of the biggest factors, and with his Disney Plus show slated to start shooting next year, that provides a big enough window for the dev team to figure out where he could fit in the content schedule. We saw in Spider-Man's story trailer that Wonder Man exists in the game's universe, and having another powerhouse hero that can fly and project beams of energy would be an absolute win for players who have grown tired of bunny hopping around the map. Next up is the Falcon. This hero checks off basically every box to justify being on this list. He was one of the many names found in the game files. He's already had a Disney Plus show that's being spun into a major movie, and he could be an interesting addition to the game's story because of his relationship to Captain America. And he's another hero that players have wanted added because they want more of the Avengers present in the MCU added, as well as players wanting more representation. His current run in the comics has him sharing the mantle of Captain America with Steve Rogers, and that's also his new title in the MCU, so I can see that being a big factor in his story in the game, where he could have taken up the mantle when the world believed Captain America was dead, or they could simply have him operate as the Falcon and tell a unique story from the ones we've seen recently in the comics and the MCU. Just like with Wonder Man, his upcoming projects are still a ways out, which provides ample time for the developers to plan out a window for his release, and he can make a great late addition for 2023 or as the first release for 2024 if development is still going by then. We'll have to wait and see if and when he's added, but I think he has a pretty decent chance to appear in the future. This next hero is another name you may recognize from my list of heroes not likely to appear, but I told you guys in that same video that Ant-Man was was the most likely of all the names on that list to actually appear, and the biggest reason for him possibly not being a hero they explore would be that figuring out how to make his mechanics work could prove to be challenging. But since then, the developer has been purchased by a new publisher who has increased development resources for the game, so a lot more is possible now than it was a few weeks ago. And with Ant-Man's third movie scheduled to drop next year, I think he's a prime candidate to be added to the expanding Avengers roster in the near future. Way back in the promo trailers, when it was revealed that Hank Pym was a part of the game's story, players were hopeful to see Ant-Man added to the team of playable heroes, although those hopes were dashed when it was revealed that due to AIM's experiments on him, Hank Pym can no longer shrink or it would kill him. But there's still an Ant-Man in the game's universe because we learned through a conversation between Hank and Bruce that Scott Lang is alive in the game's universe, although he's going into hiding since the fall of the Avengers and the rise of AIM. But that sets the stage for his introduction in the story, and with his new movie scheduled for next July, that gives the team plenty of time to figure out his mechanics, with Kamala already providing the basis for his giant form, so I think there is a strong chance to see this unique fan favorite become an official member of the team. Next on the list is a hero with very close ties to both the Avengers and Ant-Man, and that's the Wasp. Just like Scott Lang, we know that Hope exists in the game's universe, and that she's currently looking for her father, which provides a solid reason for her to be introduced in the story. Maybe she teams up with Scott to investigate AIM because of her father's disappearance, and we get something similar to what we saw with Kate and Hawkeye's release, where Kate was introduced first, with Hawkeye being a part of her story and then getting his own release in the next operation. Ant-Man and Wasp were original members of the Avengers, and it would only be right to have both of their successors become members of this current team in the game. And as I said, planning is a big part of bringing new heroes to the game, and because both heroes have very similar powers, they would essentially be echoes of each other with plenty of room to have their own unique ultimates and takedowns. And as we continue to see, there is no plan for any hero to be an exact reskin of another hero, so it feels wrong to call them echoes, but at their core, they're two sides of the same coin. The ability to release two unique fan favorite heroes back to back would be a big win for the game, coupled with capitalizing on the hype of the upcoming movie. I think these two heroes offer a perfect opportunity to score big with veteran players, as well as pulling in newer players who are fans of both Wasp and Ant-Man. Players have been reasonable with their demands for this next hero, but after her appearance in Multiverse of Madness, that could change if their demands aren't met. Of course, I'm talking about Scarlet Witch, and she's another hero who checks off all the boxes on this list. She's become wildly popular after her roles in Infinity War and Endgame, and that popularity skyrocketed after the success of WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness. So her name has been buzzing a lot lately, and she was another name on the list of heroes found in the game files, and she's been teased in the game's story through dialogue in Wakanda with mention of a looming magical threat. Currently, the game's story is centered around defeating AIM, with the invasion of the Kree already set up as the next major crisis the Avengers will have to face. But post-Kree invasion is where the future of the Avengers story becomes unclear, with the idea that a new threat that requires the expertise of heroes who specialize in magic being the next big thing. Scarlet Witch would not only instantly be one of the most powerful Avengers on the roster, she would also provide unique gameplay mechanics not found in any of the other heroes available. Her list of powers is insane, and her ability to warp reality offers some very creative gameplay opportunities for the developers to explore, and the idea of getting more flying Avengers on the team definitely helps. Her addition to the game would be one of the most welcome and celebrated of any of the heroes we've seen since Black Panther, and if the teasers and rumors are true, then things could get very interesting once the Kree invasion is wrapped up. This next hero not only has ties to Scarlet Witch, but also has ties to a villain that we expect to see arrive sometime this summer, and that's the Vision. He was another name that stood out on the list of leaked heroes who were being planned back in the early days of Avengers, and with Ultron expected to arrive as the villain for She-Hulk and the Avengers to take down, it sets the expectation that the Vision will be making an appearance in the future as well, because in both the comics and the MCU, the Vision was originally created by Ultron and ultimately eventually ends up becoming an Avenger and helps to fight against his creator. If you know anything about Ultron, then you know the guy never truly dies and always comes back in the next Windows update. And I believe we could see the Vision possibly teased during Ultron's dialogue during She-Hulk's operation, and possibly see him in the future when Ultron eventually returns. We don't currently have an MCU project with Vision's name attached to it, but he's still floating around out there, and players would love to have him added to the roster as well. And this isn't something I think is lost on the developers, so I think our chances of seeing the Vision in the future are pretty high. These last three heroes have the highest chance of being added in my opinion, outside of the game being shut down prematurely, which currently is something it seems we're moving further and further away from as a possibility. Two of them will come as no surprise, but the third may shock some players because the idea of him finally coming to the game as a playable hero is really starting to feel tangible, and I'm talking about Doctor Strange. When players saw his name among the planned heroes to be added to Avengers, they went absolutely wild because Doctor Strange in this game would literally be amazing. Because of the combat system and the different mechanics and builds players would be able to take advantage of with him, it would literally be a dream come true to see him on the roster. He was also teased in Conversations in Wakanda, and he also plays a pretty big role in the game's prequel novel, The Extinction Key, where the world is faced with an extinction level threat by a group of ancient magic users, and the Avengers need Doctor Strange to lead the way as the Sorcerer Supreme. Back in late March, one of the developers teased that he was reading the novel as homework, and there's currently rumors that Doctor Strange being added as the next big hero after Captain Marvel was a major part of the pitch made to the developer's new publisher to continue development beyond this year. So take all of that with a grain of salt because it's simply a rumor at this point, but there has been a lot of internal buzz about Doctor Strange, and the developers have stated on multiple occasions that they do like the idea of seeing him added to the roster. If the rumors about a new magic wielding threat being introduced after the Kree invasion turn out to be true, I believe we'll not only see the arrival of Scarlet Witch, but also Doctor Strange to lead the Avengers in dealing with threats that fall under the specialty of the Sorcerer Supreme. He just had his second movie hit theaters and has been pretty well received, and no hero would be bigger in terms of player reception because players have been begging for him to make the cut. And I'm really starting to see that as a real possibility now, and player demand will have played a big role. This next hero is someone I've personally been fighting for and will continue to fight for him until he's added to the game, and that's War Machine. Not only was his name in the game files, but he also was in development, and for whatever reason the decision was made to halt his development and move forward with other heroes like She-Hulk and Winter Soldier, and I think that was because at the time there was no time frame for the Armor Wars Disney Plus show to drop, or when production would even begin, but now it's looking like Armor Wars will release in 2023, which provides a great opportunity to continue development on War Machine to take advantage of the hero's popularity in the MCU. I know a lot of players roll their eyes at the mention of War Machine because in their mind he's just an Iron Man echo, but to that I say two things. One, you're wrong, and two, the War Machine armor was designed for war scenarios, so he has tankier armor which allows him to take more damage while also making him a lot slower in comparison to Iron Man. He also has a different variety of weapons where Iron Man uses repulsors, lasers, and rockets. War Machine prefers machine guns, missiles, and a shoulder cannon, where Iron Man is stylish and futuristic. War Machine sticks with the classics and has a ton of abilities that would be great for crowd control and covering a large area and damage. I wouldn't be surprised at all to learn that after the fall of the Avengers, Rhodey went back to work for the government and possibly learns about some of AIM's nefarious dealings with the government and seeks out the Avengers. I think he would be one of the easiest heroes on the list to add in terms of development because he already has so much done and they have Iron Man as the blueprint. And they literally have the perfect person on the team to help make him as unique and as fun to play as I know he can be. I'm pretty sure everyone knew that Captain Marvel would be at the top of this list, and for good reason, because we've known she was coming since the game's campaign, where we got our first look at her design for the game, and there was also mention of her in the prequel novel as well, and she also has major ties to the Kree, and we know the impending invasion will set the stage for her return to Earth. At the start of this year, we expected her to be the big expansion to close out 2022, leaving the door open for bigger opportunities to come in the future, but now it's looking like she'll have to be the content that starts the new year in 2023. But who really knows, because they can always surprise us. Her new movie The Marvels is scheduled to release in February, which is why the belief is now that she'll be held back to tie in with the release of that, and her introduction requires the least amount of guesswork for anyone on this list because she's literally one of the strongest Avengers, and with the threat of the Kree invading Earth, the Avengers will definitely be looking for her to swoop in and assist with saving the day. Her powers are going to be insane, as well as her costumes, and I can't wait to see her finally come to the game because it feels like we've been waiting forever, but I am glad to know that she is coming. We just have to wait and see when exactly that'll be. This video was a ton of fun to make, but also a ton of work, so I really appreciate you guys for checking it out, and if you stuck around this far in the video, you are literally the best, and I would love to keep the conversation going in the comments, so let me know which of these heroes you believe is the most likely to be added in Avengers, and is there a hero you want added that wasn't on this list? Let me know down below, and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more Marvel's Avengers content every week, and if you're interested in picking up Avengers merch, shop with Fandom In, and make sure to use my code in the description to get an additional 10% off. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.